All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS live video. Got the CJ Cup here for you today. Brian's already in here saying, let's go. Yeah, let's go. This is going to be an interesting week. I don't know if it's going to be one that I overly want to attack. There's a light show going on with my webcam right now. Let's see if we can adjust that. Boom. A little bit better there. But yeah, so we got news that Dustin Johnson and also Tony Finau looks like they can't play this week due to COVID reasons once again this week, which is kind of unfortunate. I do think that both of those two would have been solid plays. I really actually liked Tony Finau as a play last week, so that was pretty unfortunate to see there. And then with DJ as well. DJ was going to be a top pick this week. I had him grayed out as a great play this week. Obviously, he's the second prize player on the slate. It kind of makes it easier because John Rahm's out, or because we can get onto John Rahm now and JT. So DJ being out kind of makes it easier because we don't have to think about, which one on the high end to kind of fade. That naturally happens for us. So that's the decent part there on the high end. But, I'll start off here with some DK Sportsbook picks, and then, we'll get into some DraftKings as well. But real quick, I do want to pull up something because it's something that I restarted. It's something that I had going a while back. It's Sit Start Polls. So restarted the Twitter account, Sit Start Polls. I'm going to be running it. It's going to be more of a fantasy focused type thing. So really, just started tweeting again on this yesterday. So if you guys are interested, join that. That's actually how 9 to 5 started. So the original handle for 9 to 5 Sports was Sit Start Polls. That's how I grew the following. So I'm going to start to try to build that following up again. Obviously not going so well right now, but get those questions in there. If you guys have season long questions, that's going to be the focus on that page. And then obviously I'll keep the 9 to 5 Sports content on 9 to 5 Sports, more DFS focused on there. But one and the same there, just keep your more fantasy focused questions there. But let's get into kind of the DK Sportsbook side of things. All right, so, obviously John Rahm, Justin Thomas, and Xander, those are the top 3 picks this week. Everyone knows that. On the high end, 10-1 for Justin Thomas, not that good. 9-1 for Rahm, not that good. And Xander, 11-1, not that good. This is not a week where I really want to bet outrights. I honestly would feel much more comfortable betting players to top 10, players that we know have a great shot to top 10. Hey, appreciate that, Brian. I am going to try to make the show much more on schedule going forward. Been a little bit chaotic recently. Been trying to find a house. And then also my wedding venue that I'm getting married here shortly. I was actually already supposed to be married, but due to COVID reasons, had to postpone it. Then I actually had to switch venues. So a little bit chaotic week last week for the 9 to 5 household, but got it figured out and kind of continued a little bit into this week, but whatever. Gonna start going back to the normal, live stream at around 1 p.m. or around 3 p.m. One of those 2 times, but I'll try to get a concrete one in there for you. Alex has a question about Kokrak or Kuchar. I'll get into that in just a second. Let me talk about the, outright bets I'd make, and then I'll get back into the top 10 picks after I answer your question. So, I don't really want to bet those guys to outright win. Yes, they're the most likely, but, it's like whatever. You might as well just place a little bit more money on like JT or Xander to top 10 because it's much more likely. And I think it's just the better route to go this week, a little bit more predictable. But going deeper, I don't mind the idea of like Harris English, sending in for deep shot odds. I'm a little bit worried about those guys. This is a weird year where a lot of long shot bets have won. And a lot of the guys that have been winning are guys that I literally had in my player pool on Monday. And then, you got to trim the player pool down throughout the week because you don't want to have 50 players in there. Martin Laird was one. Stuart Sink was one. And I believe there was one more. I forget who it was. It wasn't Sergio. It was off of Sergio that week. But there was one more where at the start of the week I had them highlighted as a play that I could like. And then, just trimming it down. They didn't make the cut. So that better not happen this week. But yeah, let's go lower. I'm trying to find like a 100-1 guy here, and it's tough. Maybe Sebastian Munoz, Mr. Fallgoff. Don't mind that. Brendan Steele, 125-1. That wouldn't be shocking. That'd be on par for the season, actually, if Brendan Steele went out and won. A guy that's been hanging around for a while, has shown some upside somewhat recently. That wouldn't be too shocking. And then I don't expect Harry Higgs to win, but I do really like him in DraftKings purposes. Just he's been playing pretty solid golf. He's scoring a ton, so let her worry about that. Exactly, I have been, but I get roped into it as well. That's great. That might be the comment of the year right there, Brian. I like that. But Kokrak or Kuchar? Let's get into that question here. So Jason Kokrak, yes. Jason Kokrak is an interesting play. He has been playing a lot better golf as of recently. We look at what he's done for no-cut events. Not the best there, really, but he has been playing a lot better as of recent, so I do get it. But I much would rather go Matt Kuchar. He's one of my favorite plays this week. I talked about this on the Core Plays video, but first round, great. Second round, great. Third round, absolutely horrible. And then fourth round, great. If he just takes that third round and makes them exactly the same as the other two rounds, he's contending for a win last week. And maybe that's why he choked. That honestly could be why he choked and had a bad, round 3. But I don't mind him as a pick this week. Matt Kuchar, pretty decent, no-cut event history. Most of it is WGC events. Ranks out pretty well, staff-it-wise. He has been leaning on his putter a lot recently, but strokes gain total is solid. Par 5 scoring okay. Strokes gain approach all right. He's just a play at this price point that I think he's going to be able to pay off that price point. So he's going to be a solid play. Then Jordan Spieth, huh? Jordan Spieth sighting. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me if he gets like a top 15 finish. At some point, he's going to need to be a value play for us to consider him, though, because he's still a little bit priced up for what he's done recently. I just don't like the price point for what he has done recently. Not something that I want to go out and really target that much this week. So it just seems a little bit too risky for me at that price point. But we'll say one guy that I have gone on a little bit more as the week went on, right around that same price point, Russell Henley. What sucks about this year so far, and I'm pulling up on the stat sheet, is that you don't have all the stats, and I've already touched on this a good amount of times, but just don't have all the stats fit in. The PGA Tour isn't exactly, the forefront of everything as well, and that's why you see like DraftKings kind of not concentrating as much as well. How about Hideki and Daniel Berger? So Hideki's an interesting play this week. I really do like Daniel Berger, but we'll pull up Hideki here. So Hideki, pretty solid, no-cut history. That's great. Great recent form as well. Been playing like a stud. And let's see, I might be able to pull it up on the super simple stat sheet as well. I might do that. But par 5 scoring I like, strokes gain approach I like. His putting, it was getting better for a while and then kind of regressed back a little bit. So that does worry me a little bit. The problem with me with Hideki is his price point. I worry about his upside at that price point. It does seem like he's due for a victory. I just don't think that is going to be this week. So that's why I worry with him. And then Daniel Berger, I think he is a safe play. I just have been having a lot of trouble trying to pay up for a player in this price point range. Now I have ended up on trying to get to like Daniel Berger in a lot of my main builds, and I'm 100 off, which really sucks. So I have been settling with Hideki in a couple of those builds, which I don't want to do. That's just kind of the week that we have, though. Unfortunately, it's like you got your plays that you really want to get on. You want to fit them all into your build, but sometimes you just got to kind of shoulder shrug and go with it. Obviously, these are some of the best players in the world. They're in this event for a reason. So all in all, they should do well. And obviously, Hideki's been playing some good golf, so I don't mind that. But I'd much rather play Daniel Berger. He doesn't have all of his stats so far for the season. Hasn't played in that many events for this season, so he doesn't have enough for total driving and ball striking. But what we've seen from him, I think this is all from the U.S. Open, I believe. Was drawing par 4 or par 5 scoring. Strokes gain approach would be better if we were looking at last year's stats. And then obviously total driving and ball striking is one of the best on the PGA Tour for that as well. So, I like Daniel Berger. It's just tough. I'd rather pay up for Xander. I'd rather pay up for Justin Thomas as well. So that's kind of my struggle this week is, it's tough to pay up for Berger, especially like I'll pull him up too. To me, Harris English and Daniel Berger are pretty much the exact same play. Obviously, Harris English missed the cut last week, but he shot -6. That wasn't bad. I would take 4 rounds of that, which is pretty predictable with Harris English. I would be perfectly happy with that. If he made the cut, English could have, I don't think he would have done what Matthew Wolff did, but I do think he could have went out and had a top 10 finish. At some point, I do expect Harris English to kind of fall off. I just don't think that happened last week. Kind of the same with like someone like Brendan Todd here. I'll pull him up as well. Brendan Todd, pretty decent, especially recently for the no-cut events. If he was a little bit cheaper, I'd be on him a little bit more. If he was like 7.4, I would like him much more. But he's a guy where I feel like he gets a slight advantage at a course that no one else has really played that much. A new course, because the style of game is just like hit fairways, hit greens, 2-putt. Like if Chris Ventura was in this event, I'd be all for him because that's what he has been doing. Although last week he actually had like 4 drops, I think Ventura did, which was, I didn't like that at all. That was very annoying. But let me get back into some of the sportsbooks picks. I'm going to talk about some top 10 plays that I like instead. So I know I got it highlighted on only the outright winners, but I already touched on it. I'd much rather bet like JT, Xander, kind of trying to lock in those bets for them to top 10. They're both plus 110 to top 10, which I'm perfectly fine with. I mean, the difference between that and like an outright win, I'd much rather just bet on something much more likely. I mean, JT has top 10 pretty much in every WGC event the last 2 years, it seems like, or no-cut events in general. So I do really like JT, and then Xander's just as good of a play. After that, I would actually go down to like Sanjay M to top 10. Don't mind that he's plus 300 for that. Kind of shows that with his outright there. Going lower. Then I would just want to go like pretty deep. Hit some like deep shot ones. And I always say this, like the 9 to 5 write-up, it's like a lot of the players I've been on where they haven't come through for a victory, which you could cash out early with that. But a lot of these guys, I just much rather feel like if you want to consistently cash, just bet them in the top 10. You're going to win a lot more often then. But Brendan Steele, I think he could be a sneaky like top 10 play. I really do. Just playing well right now. If he puts together 4 good rounds of playing well like he has recently, I could see that happening. Same thing with Munoz. With Munoz, I feel like it's either going to be like he has his game, he's playing well. It's going to be like a top 15, top 10 finish right around there. Maybe a top 5. I doubt that though. But he also could finish like T50. I don't know. The stats aren't exactly there for him this week like they have been in the past, and that's kind of my worry with someone like Sebastian Munoz. Lanto Griffin, really hit or miss. Don't like that much, to be honest with you. But Harry Higgs, I already touched on it. He's one of my favorite long shot ones there. Brian just asked about that. Yeah, Harry Higgs is one of my favorite long shot bets in general. He's just been a scorer as of recently. That's kind of what I want to target when we're looking at longer shot guys. He's been playing well. Had that second, and then he just missed the cut last week with that. I don't want to say just missed the cut, but he fired off a -6, 6 under par. Like any other week, that's going to be solid. It just wasn't enough last week. So if we get 4 rounds of that, I really like that quite a bit. But that's really it for long shot odds. Obviously, it's a small field. Really concentrate here. And that's why I'm dialing it back a little bit here. I'm going to pull up some plays on the super simple stat sheet real quick here for you guys. So that's kind of what we got here. Just want to pull up Harry Higgs on this too. So obviously doesn't have any like no-cut event history recently, but recent form, he's top 30 in the field, which at his price point, obviously that's something that you want to see. Stat rank, yes, he's played a lot of events so far this year, and that's why he's ranked out pretty well for a stat rank. Top 3 in that. Good play. Model rank, he does get knocked because he doesn't have any no-cut event history. That's kind of how that works. That's what sucks about early season DFS. 1, it's the early season variance. 2, it's players are either having to play in it for a reason because they sucked the previous year, or they are these young guys who are just dominating, or they are typical studs that are playing their first event of the season after like a month off. all these guys really clear their head as well. So Matt Kuchar, that's kind of why I like him, because I think he kind of flipped the switch in his brain. It's like, all right, let's go. Let's have a good year this year. Harry Higgs is fun to cheer for. I think that might be one of the biggest reasons why I'm on him actually as well. But I think he's going to pull through. Then just one more. Tom Hoge, I'm going to try to pull up here. So similar to Harry Higgs, he's actually graying out a little bit better in the model. But I just don't think he's as much of a scorer as Harry Higgs. Mostly, I think we're getting 4 rounds out of Harry Higgs. I like that quite a bit. If we're getting 4 rounds out of Hoge, I think he's just going to pay off this price point. So that's the main thing with Hoge, is that I just think he's going to pay off this price point. Recent form has been solid. 3 straight top 30 finishes. Decent stat fit as well. It just seems too cheap for him. You can really make a lot of things work. Really, all Hoge has to do is really get a top 30 finish. He has to finish in the top 50% of the field to pay off this price point. It's not going to like overly help you, but it shouldn't hurt you that much. Any interest in Steele? So Steele is the steal of the week. Just kidding. But he is. He's a good play. So no recent, no cut event history. That's what we've got here. But stat rank, top 6. Been playing great golf. And I'll pull that up on the stat sheet here, actually. Pull them up. So yeah, you can see no recent, no cut event history, but total driving ball striking the ball super well. And at a course where it's new, if you can put the ball where you want to, I think that is a distinct advantage. And that's kind of why I like him. And the surprising thing is that first in birdie to bogey ratio thus far this year. Now that's not going to continue. That's going to fall off here pretty soon. But obviously that's a good sign of him playing good golf. He actually ranks top 60 in strokes gained total, top 50 in strokes gained differential. All signs are pointing to him being a good play. The only thing that worries me is he's really not been taking advantage of the par 5s, which I do think if you're going to have a big week this week, you're going to want to score on par 5s. There's 4 of them. 2 of them are kind of longer. 2 of them are kind of shorter. The longer hitters, I think, will have an advantage there. And, someone like Xander or something like that who typically plays well at these types of events, I'm going to favor those guys a little bit more. Kind of a quieter chat today. I know I did it later than I typically do. I actually went and got a workout in today, a little bit later than I normally do, but it was nice. I haven't worked out in like 2 months, and I went the last like week and a half now, and just been defeated. It's a mental struggle right now, but whatever. Checking the ego at the door when I get in there. I haven't been this week probably since I was like a freshman or sophomore in college, to be honest with you. Damon over Steele. So I do think that Joel Damon has a lot more upside here, but I just think it's less predictable. Now, this is a week where you kind of want to go with those hit or miss guys. So for me, if I was like trying to do that, I would much rather just go with someone like Cameron Champ, who, yes, he grades out as a horrible play this week, but he's a guy that when we know his game is on, and it really hasn't been recently, he's been horrible, but when his game is on, he has been playing really, really well. So I think out of anyone in that range, I think that Cameron Champ would hold the most upside, or like Lanto Griffin, but both those two haven't been playing well recently, and that's kind of why I've been going with Harry Higgs, who has been playing well. He's just been a scorer recently, and then Brendan Steele. I just think he's going to be like a safer play at that price point. How about Streelman? So Streelman, yeah, that's a great question. I'll pull him up here as well. So Streelman, whoops. Oh, man. There we go. So Kevin Streelman. I feel like Streelman and Steele are pretty much the same player, just not recently. Streelman's been kind of struggling recently, but he's a guy at this price point where it does make sense. He's one of these guys where originally I had them in my player pool, so that means he's probably going to win because, like I said earlier, Sink and Laird And there's one other as well, the long shot guys where I'm like, yeah, I can't make the player pool too big. Got to cut someone off. That was Streelman this week for me. So, I get it as a play, but I don't think I can do it this week. I think I'd rather go Streelman or pay down for Higgs or pay up for like Kuchar. I like a lot. I already touched on that, a pretty decent amount. This week's weird because I really don't think the 7K range is that strong at all. The 8K range is kind of like a whatever if you end up on it. And I feel like this week, and kind of like the last 2 weeks, the value range is just as good as the 7K range. Now there's a little bit less predictability in the value range, but not by far. And typically value plays are value plays for a reason, because they're less predictable and they have less upside. That just hasn't been the case the last 2 weeks, and I think that's going to be this as well. Taylor Gooch, yeah. He was a guy that I had as a lineup filler last week, and he just hasn't. I don't know. He should be playing better than he is. His stats say that he should be playing better than he is. And, eventually I do think that that'll come around. I just don't want to, kind of bet on that this week. Paul Casey. So Paul Casey and Brennan Todd, their DFS chef. Those two I don't mind as plays. I can't remember if I ended up on Paul Casey this week. If I did, he was like a low exposure play for me this week, a lineup filler essentially. I get it though. I just can't do it. I love Paul Casey. He's one of my favorite players because, what was it? I think it was maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. He made an eagle on 18 to almost make the cut, to make you think about it. I forget. That might have been the first round last week where it's like, oh, we're dead in the water. And then he makes an eagle. That might have been Casey last week or 2 weeks ago. Either way, he's a guy that typically does that. It's always a sweat up until the 18th hole. And then if he does make the cut, he does. He backdoors into a top 10 or top 20 like DFS chef is saying. So I completely get it. But I just can't do it. I think I'd rather go Todd, who's a little bit more predictable this week, I think, which is weird to say. Wow. But I also do like Abraham Answer, who's a guy that and kind of the rest of 9 to 5 in the chat has been talking up a little bit this week, is Abraham Answer. Grades out 7th in the model ranking this week, which is kind of shocking, but then you kind of look at his recent form, look at his no-cut event history as well, which isn't that deep. It makes sense. It does. So as price point, he's going to be a good play. Between like Sanjay M, Harris English, and Abraham Answer, and even Daniel Berger, I don't see that big of a difference. I think that they're priced appropriately between like which one should be the highest. And, like they make sense with how they're ranked pricing wise, but the pricing separation between them doesn't make sense. What if Brooks Koepka? He's a guy that can turn it on. Honestly, he really can. I'm not doing it. You guys know my approach. It's most predictable outcomes, and that's kind of what I like to chase. Brooks Koepka has always kind of been the opposite of that. And if he's healthy, maybe. I'm not touching it, though. If he was cheaper, maybe I'd think about it. It's kind of like the same thing. Not even the same thing as Spieth, but it's like we're not touching Spieth. He's pretty cheap now. But both of them haven't been playing well. Yeah, so Chef is pointing out Henley as a player. I already talked about that one a little bit, but it's like my struggle has been, why play Henley when I can play Steele? That's kind of my struggle. It's like I keep defaulting to these value guys that I think have a strong likelihood of exceeding their price point. That's my struggle this week. It really is. But I'm going to be wrapping up here, guys, in about 2 to 3 minutes. So if you have any more questions, get those in. If not, I'm going to be getting out of here shortly. Got the just chatting screen up there now. So questions will pop up on the right-hand side of the screen there. Do want to touch on again, Sid Start Poll is good to follow on Twitter. Trying to get that thing going again this year. The DFS, NFL DFS videos, want to get those to take off here shortly. Week 1 did really well, like over like 1.2K views. Last few weeks have been kind of lacking. I know it's because of timing and whatnot, but the content there has been super good as well, so definitely check those out. So, NFL DFS is fun. It's been fun this year, especially with golf right now with these two events where they're not as, I wouldn't say they're not as fun, but they're not as good for DFS purposes. So if you guys are kind of thinking about not playing golf this week, definitely check out the 9 to 5 NFL DFS video. So Brian, yeah, so I was going over the notes from last year, and I always kind of like to do a recap after the week for my notes and say kind of what happened that week. And what I wrote was stars and scrubs in the fall. And then I was looking back at the last two events, and I'm like, dang, if I would just concentrate on stars and scrubs, would have had some pretty darn good weeks. So I'm kind of taking my past self advice. Present self is like, okay, that's a good idea. And so hopefully future self is thanking past and present self with that great advice. So I'm definitely going to go with stars and scrub this week, mostly because, like I said earlier, the balanced approach this week, I don't see the point in it because I think some of the value plays are just as good as the 7K plays. And I think the 8K range is kind of like a shoulder shrug range where you're like fine with it, but no one completely stands out. No one's like a completely great play. Koepka should have been priced in, like 8.8 Koepka should have been at, and people would have really thought about playing him, I think. But at 9.7, he's going to be low owned. Tough to play him. It is. It's just really tough to play him. You can make an okay, fair and balanced lineup, though, I will say, like Sanjay M, Harris English, Answer. You could throw in probably Hatton, Berger, where you're locking in a couple of top 10s there and kind of just hoping to get lucky, trying to hope that one of those guys, gets a victory. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it, man. So, yeah, I'm going to be heading out here pretty much right now. So, hope you guys have a good CJ Cup. It is going to be a fun event to watch. I will say my buddy Brooks Radio with the MGM sponsors, I don't know if you guys remember those over the past few months. We were kind of just promoting that a little bit there. Bet MGM. The MGM Resorts is going to have some live betting odds apparently on the coverage this week, which is kind of fun. Going to be something fun to kind of watch. So definitely going to be more of a betting focus for the PGA Tour this week, which is going to be exciting to see. Obviously, a lot of great names and one of the most beautiful courses that we can get to watch. So I'm looking forward to just watching this week. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a like to subscribe. I'm pretty sure all of you guys already subscribed, so I do appreciate you guys being in here. Be on the Sunday live stream. It'll be 10 a.m. Central to 11 a.m. Central, so about an hour there, and then an hour before lock, so you can get your fantasy football questions, you can get your DFS questions in there, and we'll have a good week. So we're out, guys.